Hello, can you leave a comment below if you own an EV, or if you're thinking of buying an EV, or if you're someone who's never had an EV and you're never actually going to buy one? Because there's been a lot of comment recently about people who are selling the EVs, and I think in most cases it's not the actual electric vehicle, it is the actual charging process. But I'm very interested to know what the reasons are. And of course what's really important is what EV, because saying EV is like saying cyclists. You know, there are good cyclists, there are bad cyclists, there are good EVs, there are not so good. I have a Tesla, I'm lucky, I've got one of the good ones, and I think that's generally established. But if you are selling your EV, please leave a comment below. Is it a charging problem or is it something else? And please tell me what model car you've got, and also where you live and what the actual problems are, because all these things have got to be solved. I mean, I have not heard of anyone selling the EV because they don't like it and the technology, but if you have, please leave a message below. And if you're never going to get one, also leave a message below. I think it's all really important information, because I'm not paid by Tesla. I think it's the best car I've ever had. Been driving since I was 20 in the RAF, driven thousands of different types of vehicles, and it's by far the best vehicle I've ever had. I can charge at home. That makes me lucky, but for the last month I haven't charged at home. I've driven from where I live in Cornwall with Jennifer, my wife, to Portsmouth, took the ferry to Santander, and driven from Santander, northern Spain, down to the Algarve in Portugal using the Tesla superchargers. And since then I've also used the local chargers in Portugal, and that's all worked very well. There haven't been any queues, and you might say, well, Portugal's not the same as UK. No, it's got about the same percentage of EVs to population. And I've used the Mayo card in Portugal. Also, we're staying in Airbnbs, and you can actually charge up at some Airbnbs by plugging in your home charger. So from my point of view, I'm really very happy with the Tesla Model 3. I see a lot of people, and I suppose it's clickbait, saying we're doing 700 miles in France. Can it be done? As if you're going to the North Pole. In most cases, they take the long range. I've only got a standard range, but when I looked at the map of the distances between all the superchargers, it's around about 80 to 100 miles. I really don't see the need for the long range, because it's much more expensive. The standard range has been fine as we've sort of worked our way down to Portugal. It's worked well. Even had some free charging at destination chargers and Airbnbs, which is great. So getting back to reasons to sell your EV, I'm suspecting they're not Tesla owners. I'd be very interested, and please, if you are a Tesla owner, you're selling, you're fed up with it, or not, if you're going to get another one. If you're not, I don't mean if you've got the Model 3 and you're buying the Model Y, but please leave a comment if you have. So I'm really interested if you're selling your EV, because and especially what make it is. Is it a Tesla, Hyundai, what is it? You know, BMW. Very interested to know exactly which one it is and your reason for it. I think most cases the problem is the actual charging infrastructure. Fine if you can charge at home, as I do, and again, I've tested it a number of times at home where I imagine that I can't charge at home and I use the local chargers. There are issues, I must be honest. There's nothing more frustrating than going up to the charger and it doesn't work. Of course, you never want that going on a long trip, and you're going to be sat around for too long waiting for it to charge. That has to be avoided at all costs. And of course, during our trip down to Portugal, I've always had a backup. I've relied on the Tesla superchargers, but I've also had the Mayo card, and as well as destination chargers, so it's always good to have the backup. But of course, more needs to be done about this charging issue. I know at Christmas, I was driving back, Jennifer, back from the Orkneys. It was between Christmas and New Year, and I could see that some of the Tesla superchargers were really full up. And of course 4 chargers on a motorway service stations is absolute crazy. You know, the ones we've seen sort of 18, 20 here in Portugal, and that's what you really need for the future. And of course, when councils put 2 chargers in a car park for 300 cars, it's not enough. It really isn't enough. Now, there was a TV presenter explaining, a morning TV presenter explaining that it can be a nightmare charging her car. I assume she lives in London or a big city. And that's important. Also, where do you live? How many chargers have you got? How can that be rectified? Well, I would say where you work and speak to your employer. Can they put in chargers? The councils need to be putting in a lot more on-street charging. Wherever there's a lamppost, that's electric supply. There is a solution there. Car parks, putting in 2 just isn't enough. It needs to be a dozen or more, as Tesla have proved. And I remember seeing the first Tesla supercharger years before I'd ever bought mine, because I had the car 2021. Think, why have they got all these and there are no cars there? Well, it was a very, very good move. Price also, for instance, here I have been paying about 28p for the electricity, but the Mayo card do bonuses. For instance, if you charge in the next 2 hours, it's 16p, and they tell you before. Well, a lot of people can't charge that at home unless they're charging in the early hours of the morning, and so UK needs to really get a grip with it. But when I say UK, Scotland do a fantastic job with Charge Place Scotland. They're everywhere. When Jennifer and I first went up to Scotland in the Orkney Isles, we noted that the last supercharger was in Inverness, but we were then going to go up to John O'Groats and take the ferry to the Orkney Isles, and we realised that we needed the Charge Place Scotland, which worked so well, and the prices are good, and I really do think they're doing a great job. And there's loads of chargers all over Scotland, and they've got it right. Governments have got behind it and backed it. If you charge at home, it's between half and a quarter the price, depending on when you what time of day you get the electricity. And the only way you can prove that it's cheaper to run a diesel gas car than electric is to charge at the very most expensive, and then you need a very inefficient EV. It's no good doing it in a decent one like a Tesla. You need an inefficient EV, and you need to belt up the motorway, because EVs do prefer the slower speeds, and you won't definitely get the best performance belting up and down the motorway in an EV. But it's still good. I get at least 200 miles in mine, going at 70 miles an hour. That's a good range, with superchargers every 80 to 100 miles. Often it might go as far as 150, 170. That's absolutely fine. Hope you can like and subscribe. Leave your comment below. I'm really interested to know if you have an EV, if you're going to sell, if you're going to keep it, and especially what make of EV and where you live and what the instances, what the problems are. Please leave your comments below. I'd love to know. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you take your reusable coffee mug wherever you go. Thanks ever so much. See you next time. Bye.